Have you ever felt like you are walking through life with an invisible hand pulling you back? You have the goals. You have the desire. You consciously want to build a relationship, start that business, or simply feel at peace. But then, something happens. A sudden wave of anxiety. A paralyzing procrastination. An explosion of anger that doesn't fit the situation. Or perhaps, it's just a pervasive, low-level numbness, a grey fog that sits between you and the joy you see others experiencing. You try to fix it with logic. You tell yourself to just work harder, or think positive. You read the books. You say the affirmations. But the pattern repeats. The same toxic partner. The same financial ceiling. The same feeling of not being enough. And here is the most frustrating part, you don't know why. You look back at your childhood, and maybe you say, it wasn't that bad. You had food on the table. You went to school. You weren't beaten. So, you invalidate your own pain. You tell yourself you're just broken, or lazy, or defective. But I am here to tell you the truth that your conscious mind has been hiding from you. You are not broken. You are not crazy. You are haunted. Not by a ghost, but by a memory you cannot access. You are fighting a war against an enemy you cannot see, because your brain decided long ago that seeing it would destroy you. Welcome to the shadow. Welcome to the trauma you don't remember. To understand why this is ruining your life, we have to look at the architecture of the human mind. We like to think of ourselves as the pilot of our own lives. We believe that we are making decisions based on logic and current reality. But depth psychology reveals a humbling truth. The conscious mind, the part of you listening to me right now, is just the tip of the iceberg. It represents maybe 5% of your cognitive processing. The other 95% is the unconscious. The shadow. And in that vast, dark water beneath the surface, lies everything you couldn't process when you were small. You see, human beings are designed for survival, not for truth. When you were a child, 2 years old, 5 years old, your survival depended entirely on your caregivers. You needed attachment to survive. If you experienced something overwhelming, a child cannot say, "My parents are emotionally immature." A child thinks, "I am bad. I am unsafe. If I express my needs, I will be abandoned." This realization is too terrifying to hold. To believe your protectors are dangerous is a death sentence for the psyche. So, what does your brilliant brain do? It initiates a mechanism called repression. Repression is not just forgetting. Forgetting is passive, repression is active. It is an active expenditure of energy. Imagine holding a beach ball underwater. As long as you focus, you can keep it down. But it requires constant force. The moment you get tired, the moment you are stressed, that ball shoots up with tremendous force. The trauma you don't remember is that beach ball. You haven't processed the event, you have simply exiled it to the shadow. You split off that part of yourself. The terrified child, the angry child, the lonely child, they didn't grow up. They are still there, frozen in time, trapped in your limbic system, waiting to be heard. And this leads us to the most dangerous misconception about trauma. We think trauma is the event. But as Dr. Gabor Mate explains, trauma is not what happens to you, it is what happens inside you. Trauma is the disconnection from yourself. It is the scar tissue that forms around the wound. Because you don't remember the wound, you don't understand the scar. The answer lies in your body. The body keeps the score. Your cognitive brain can forget. But your amygdala, the alarm bell of your brain, never forgets. Your nervous system is an archive. Let me give you an example. Imagine a man, David. David is successful. But every time he gets close to a woman, he feels a sudden, irrational repulsion. Consciously, David wants love. But unconsciously, David has a repressed memory of a smothering mother. His shadow screams a threat. Run. He destroys the relationship to return to safety. We think we are living, but we are actually reenacting. You are trapped in a time loop. This is why positive thinking is useless against deep trauma. The lock is broken. And what is down there is not a monster. It is a part of you. We have established that the ghost exists. But how do we identify an enemy that has mastered the art of camouflage? The unconscious mind does not speak in English. It speaks in symbols, in somatic sensations, and in triggers. To find the trauma you don't remember, we must become detectives of your own reactions. We must look for the glitches in your matrix. In shadow work, we operate on a fundamental principle: if it's hysterical, it's historical. This means that whenever your emotional reaction to a situation is disproportionate to the actual event, you have struck a vein of repressed trauma. You are not reacting to the person in front of you, you are reacting to the past. Let's break down the 3 primary artifacts that repressed trauma leaves behind. Artifact number 1, the recurring trigger. Think about the last time you felt a surge of intense negative emotion. Maybe your partner didn't text you back for 3 hours. Logically, you know they are busy. But emotionally? Your chest tightens. You start spiraling, they don't care about me. That gap, the gap between the reality and your reaction, is the shadow. That panic is not about the text message. It is the emotional flashback of a child who was left waiting. The text message is just the finger pulling the trigger. If you find yourself having the same fight with different people, you are stuck in a compulsion loop. The unconscious mind is trying to resolve the past by recreating it in the present. Artifact number 2, the negative script. Listen to the voice in your head when you fail. Is it, "I am such an idiot. I'm worthless"? That inner critic is not you. It is an introject. It is the internalized voice of a critical parent, a teacher, or a bully from your past. The child thinks, "My parents are good. Therefore, if I am being treated this way, I must be bad." We swallow the poison to save the relationship. We internalize the blame. Artifact number 3, the somatic map. The body is the most honest thing you own. Your mind can lie. But your body cannot lie. Trauma is energy. When you repress an emotion, that energy doesn't vanish. It goes into your tissues. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk's work shows us that repressed trauma manifests as physical symptoms. The tightness in your throat? That's the words you were never allowed to speak. The chronic lower back pain? That's the lack of support. Pay attention to where you hold tension. When you are stressed, do you hunch your shoulders? That is a defensive posture. So, how do we use these artifacts? We use a technique I call the effect bridge. This is a practical shadow work exercise. Next time you are triggered, when you feel that wave of irrational anger or fear, do not distract yourself. Do not scroll on your phone. Stop. Sit with the feeling. Close your eyes. Locate the sensation in your body. Is it a knot in the stomach? Focus on that physical sensation. Don't think about the story. Focus on the feeling. Now, ask yourself, when was the first time I felt this way? Allow your mind to float back. Let the effect bridge carry you. Follow the feeling back through time. You might remember a breakup 3 years ago. Go back further. Suddenly, a memory might pop up. You are 6 years old. You dropped a glass of milk. Your father yelled. You felt small. You felt terror. Bingo. You have found the root. You realize that your anxiety about making a mistake at work today is actually the terror of that 6-year-old boy. You are not a 30-year-old professional in that moment, you are a frightened child. This realization is the breaking of the spell. But finding the memory is only half the battle. Analysis is the function of the mind, healing is the function of the heart. To actually heal, we need to do something counterintuitive. We need to feel it. Emotions are like waves. The only reason your pain feels endless is because you interrupt the wave before it crashes. You repress it before it completes its cycle. In the final part, I am going to show you exactly how to complete that cycle. I will give you the roadmap for reparenting. We are going to learn how to enter that basement and finally bring the child home. The diagnosis is complete. We have identified the ghost. We have traced the trigger back to the root. Now, we arrive at the most critical moment. This is where the work shifts from intellectual understanding to spiritual and biological alchemy. We are going to perform the surgery. We are going to integrate the shadow. Neuroscience has given us a miraculous discovery called memory reconsolidation. We now know that every time you access a memory, it becomes malleable. It becomes liquid again. You can alter it. We do this through a process called active reparenting. Here is the protocol. I want you to go back to that memory you found. But this time, do not go back as the victim. Go back as your higher self. Visualize yourself walking into that scene. See your younger self, that frozen, terrified child. Now, step between the child and the source of the pain. Visualize your adult self shielding them. Look at the abusive figure and say, "Stop. You cannot talk to them like that anymore. They are with me now." Then, turn to the child. This is the most important conversation of your life. Kneel down. Look them in the eyes. And tell them what they desperately needed to hear 20 years ago. Say to them, "I am here. I am you from the future. I survived. We made it. You are not alone anymore. You didn't do anything wrong. You are safe now." Pick the child up. Hold them. Visualize the physical sensation of hugging your younger self. This sounds like imagination, but to your brain, it is real. Your brain releases oxytocin. Your amygdala begins to calm down. You are literally rewriting the neural pathway from "I am in danger" to "I am safe." This is integration. When you rescue that child, you stop the energy leak. Remember the beach ball you were holding underwater? You just let it float to the surface. But instead of exploding, you caught it. The energy that you were using to repress that trauma, the energy that fueled your fatigue, is suddenly released. It becomes fuel. And this brings us to the beautiful paradox of shadow work, though a light at the end of the tunnel. Carl Jung said, "The shadow is 90% pure gold." Why? Because when you hid your pain, you also hid your power. To survive a critical environment, you might have repressed your voice. You became quiet and a good. So, your assertiveness, your leadership, and your power to speak truth were exiled into the shadow. To survive an emotionally cold environment, you might have repressed your sensitivity. So, your empathy, your creativity, and your ability to love deeply were exiled. When you do this work, when you reclaim those exiled parts, you don't just stop hurting. You become whole. The anger you were so afraid of? When integrated, it becomes passion. The sadness? It becomes compassion. The fear? It becomes intuition. This is why the trauma is ruining your life. Because a life lived with half your soul in the basement is not a life. But when you bring the pieces back together, you become unstoppable. You become a person of high value not because you are perfect, but because you are undivided. This process is not a one-time event. It is a practice. You will get triggered again. But next time, you won't spiral into self-hatred. You will recognize the signal. You will say, there is a part of me calling for attention. And you will go get them. You will stop looking for a savior in your partner, your boss, or your bank account. You will realize that the savior you have been waiting for is you. You are the only one who can walk into that dark room. You are the only one who has the key. The past does not have to be a life sentence. The trauma was not your fault, but your healing is absolutely your responsibility. It will be hard. It will be messy. But I promise you, on the other side of that pain is the freedom you have been chasing. The door is open. The child is waiting. Go get them. If this message resonated with a part of you that has been hiding, let me know in the comments. I am ready to heal. Subscribe if you want to go deeper into the psychology of the self. See you in the light.